Rogue is a pretty incredible champion, but she is let down in many different ways. Hello, we're going to be doing a video about Rogue. Quite obviously, that's the title. This is what we're doing. And I've always liked to see that there would be a 6-star version down the line. I don't actually think it's possible to get a 6-star version, but I could be wrong. There could be one out there. Who really knows? But yeah, so I got the 5-star version and I've 565 this to do a kind of a what if video. I mean, the what if series is all about doing 6 stars to rank 3 at 200 signature to say what if there was one out there, although there have been several that I've found from just experiences that players actually have, whether or not they've been ranked up on 200 signature for reasons that will be known to Alliance Wars leaders and officers. But apart from that, it's a case of it's a thing. But yeah, this video is about Rogue. I love Rogue. When she was first introduced, I thought she was a great champion. Shout out to Frojo34, and if you don't know, Frojo has done an Labyrinth of Legends completion with this. At least one path I know of. He may have done a few others. In Labyrinth of Legends, which is pretty incredible. It is some very long-ended content, but Rogue can actually be very self-serving and have great survivability from a point of power control off the SP2 and as well life stealing off the SP1 and as well buff stealing off the SP1. It's not always the best option, but still it's relatively fun. However, though, the champion has not been given the best of opportunities to ramp up how the champion functions, which is all based on the way that she absorbs the buffs of enemies. Her signature ability at 200 is absorbing the very fabric of enemies. Every life or power steal has a 39.9% chance to be critical, increasing the amount absorbed. So it's like saying I take some of your life and I could take a lot more of your life as a result of the signature ability. I do think she deserves a buff. She should be more powerful than she is, and especially with things like passive effects coming in or passive buffs, it then steals away the opportunity of this being a go-to champion for stuff like that. And I think that kind of sucks because that's not really doing justice by Rogue, especially her lineage and her comic book history and source material and her abilities. But still, you know, I thought, well, let's dust off the champion and kind of like see how well she slaps as a 565 at 200 signature. Let's have a look at the results. And here we go on screen. So I take you partway through the fight of a Winter Soldier. I didn't want to give you the full fight because, like, you know, who wants to see the full fight of that? We want to make a time-sensitive and very quick video on this champion. But the main thing to point out is the SP2 has good enough power still, and I would say after an SP1, if you've got an SP2 ready, do it, throw it. Because it could be a case that when you're doing the absorbing, it could be the case when you're doing the power controlling, you are suppressing a champion's growth or enemy champion's growth in getting anything when it comes to power. And she is actually a cool option for power control. It's just at times when you're looking to power control, champions that either power steal, power lock, or power burn off an SP1 are usually a bit more effective for time sensitive reasons, for other reasons unknown. It just seems to be a better thing. But there's some good crits you can see on screen, good crits hitting off, and that's really with the long shot synergy I've got attached to this. So with Jubilee coming into the game, and that will be more beneficial for the buff stealing element, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, or showcase in a minute. It's where that is. But look, for this, I'm just rotating around the SP2 because of the crits that are really given from that. Except that time, there was no crits there, but that's sometimes how it rolls. Sometimes you get crits, sometimes you don't. And in this fight, I did actually go lose health, and the reason being in order to kind of like, I was testing out the SP1 on leeching back health, but I decided that, look, let's not show that just yet. Let's show that in a future video. As look, this is where the Jubilee synergy comes into play with the buff stealing element. Slight disappointing thing here is that when I do the SP1, I don't steal all the important buffs. If I'd stolen a Fury buff from the enemy, and I do, by the way, it should have like hit into the block, and that's the thing. I would like to see that that time frame longer for you to have those buffs on you, because as soon as you throw that SP1, it's like it's game over. I got very lucky here, by the way, but you can see like the champion's super sustainable with health and giving that back. But this fight here with Psylocke, this is in Act 6.3, showcases the sustainability of the champion from a point of going, look, this is the longest fight we're going to showcase and I'm going to talk about or talk over. But look, I survive, and that's the main thing. I think as at one point I do make a mistake and I'm going to eat a load of damage. But this is where I think the champion needs and deserves that ramp up it should have. Especially now, we're kind of like, you know, the same thing, same method. And look, it's just SP2. That's really where the value lies in this, is just based it all on the SP2. But the survivability is kind of important. And sometimes I do think the shrug off of debuff effects, which at times when you face off against Rogue, is a little bit more effective than in other circumstances, like, you know, shrugging off a bleed effect or shrugging off a stun effect or just any other effect really. You kind of go like, right, well, I want that debuff to be shrugged off quicker, so it seems of more value to me. That's where this champion should be a little bit more effective than that. I'm not to say that it isn't now, it's just a case of going, look, can I have this being, if it's, what, 5 seconds, let's say, for a shrug off, can it be 3 seconds? Because this champion, I'd say it'd be like super troll, it just would be nice to just have that as an element with it. So part of the passive is that the decreases the duration debuffs by 70%. I gotta be honest, a lot of times when I'm getting like bleed and poisons, it doesn't feel like it's been shrugged off that quickly, just saying. So yeah, I just would like to see some kind of bigger improvements from this champion from a point of, I think more so for damage and a little bit more with like ramping up the abilities to be super effective. But look, survivability wise, you can see on screen, we're surviving this Psylocke fight very, very nicely, and just rotating around the SP2, gone and done the SP1 in order to get back the health as quickly as possible. And we're going to do another SP2 there. Not huge amounts of crit damage, and maybe that's something as well Kabam could work on down the line. It's just increasing, ramping up, making it a little bit more kind of spicier for the damage output. I want to be able to go, yes, this is a champion I'd like to use more of, but not a huge amount of usability. As like I said, there is a lot of things like passive effects, like passive furies, passive armor that you just can't take in and leech back or absorb. So yeah, that's something I would like to see. I'd love to see a 6-star version to see whether or not there would be more ramp up on this, but more so with the champion being buffed down the line. And maybe even like a stat increase, like a tune-up, rather than like a full overhaul. Just like she's got all the inner workings of something there. But if she could absorb those passives, it would be like showcasing this as being more valuable in that instance. The same way that you can't do a very powerful SP2 with Morningstar against passive effects or passive buffs, because they're not buffs, they're called effects. But you know, essentially they are buffs. They're just now labelled as effects because they're passive. Well, look, it still counts as being a thing on the screen that she can technically or should technically absorb. Why can't she absorb it? And it should be more fair for this particular champion. But yeah, it was nice to kind of break out and do a 565 of Rogue, a champion that I did like back in the day. I still like very much so, but I just feel there could be a little bit more done with it. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.